Welcome to the Family First Retirement Podcast with George Politarhos. For more information on the Petrea Wealth Group or to schedule your complimentary consultation, visit PetreaWealth.com. Now, let's get to the show.
George, the IRS is out with a new tax bracket to help with inflation. I know, right? I want you to hear this clip from CNN's Vanessa Yurkovich, who explains more.
This could be significant for a lot of Americans. Every year, the IRS readjusts the tax brackets, and they've widened all of them this year. So let's take an example. For example, if you were making $45,000 in 2023, your tax bracket was 22%. This year, because of the widening of those brackets, you're only going to be taxed at 12%. So that's significant savings for everyday Americans.
How do you help mitigate all these new taxes surrounding our Social Security?
You know, the IRS is such a hard agency to deal with, and they change the rules constantly. That's why when you deal with a CPA, he knows all this. That's why we have Ernie Calais that works with us every day as part of our team, and part of our relationship is with Ernie because of his expertise in this field. But when we talk about Social Security, one of the things we have to remember, Mark, is that people always ask, is my Social Security going to be taxable income, George? And the answer is it can be. And there's some parameters that go with that. So for a married couple that has something called a provisional income. Now, the provisional income, Mark, and not a lot of people know this, is they take your prior year adjusted gross income plus half of your Social Security benefit you receive, plus any wages you earn, plus any municipal bonds, that interest. If those numbers add up together for a married couple is $34,000 and less, none of your Social Security is taxed. If it's between $34,000 and $44,000, up to 50% of your Social Security will be considered taxable income, and above 44, up to 85%. But when they talk about these brackets that are increasing the buffers, I don't really care what bracket you're in when we look at taxes, be honest with you, Mark, because a bracket is like the clique of friends you hang around with. I care what the rate I pay and how much it is. So, for example, if they are in the 22% tax bracket or the 12, the actual rate after deductions and such is probably for 12 going to be around 7 to 9%, 7 to 8%. And that's the rate I'm worried about. I don't care about the brackets personally. That's like saying, I bought a new Lexus this year. Don't you want to buy one too, Mrs. Smith? But that's how you plan for that. And you need to know the rules, because there's ways to do tax planning to maximize these opportunities. And depending on where you're going to pull those funds from will affect your adjusted gross income, and we can benefit you down the future. And that goes with the tax planning process that we do for our customers and really our family members. So when you come into our office at 501 Silverside Road in Wilmington and sit down with myself, Achilles, Jared, Angie, Ernie, we look at that because it's part of your plan. It's important to have a plan, folks. And most people, you know, we plan for Christmas and Hanukkah coming up, right? People are already making big plans. We plan for that vacation to the beach in the summertime or to the mountains in January to go skiing. Why don't we plan for something to last for our life? You know, that's what we do for you when you come here. When you call 302-330-2166 and come and sit down, let's have a cup of coffee and let's talk about this, because it's the biggest thing, probably the second biggest thing people do in their lives, third biggest. Don't you think you need to have some foresight, some planning, some education? Yeah. Let me educate you to get you in the right place.
George, I want to go back to something you said a second ago. Yeah. You come in, you have a cup of coffee. You're going to sit down and you're going to meet the team. I want you to go over those names again, because it's worth noting that when you schedule that initial consultation, they're not going to push you off to a part-time sub-advisor that only comes in twice a week, or maybe is in a whole nother office on the other side of town.
When you come into our office and you're going to meet with me, George, you're going to meet with Jared Politarhos. He's our office manager, and he's working with our customers on a daily basis. You're going to meet with Achilles. You're going to meet with Angie. You're going to meet, when we talk about tax planning, with Ernie, because that's the team. That's the family that you come to. You are going to meet the people that we talk about. I don't have someone coming in a day at a time or 2 days saying, look at me, and I'll do this on a part-time basis, because we don't do anything part-time. Retirement's a full-time adventure. It's a creation you've made. And we're going to make sure you get to do what you want, how you want to, and when you want to. And it starts with working with a professional.
And it begins with a phone call. 302-330-2166. Hey, we know it's a busy time of the year, but we always save space on the counter specifically for our radio audience. 302-330-2166. One more follow-up question about your tax strategies. I heard something recently about a survivor's tax penalty. Now we're getting taxed if our spouse dies?
It's terrible, isn't it? You've dealt with a terrible event, the passing of a spouse. You lose a lot of tax benefits because the most advantageous tax structure is married filing jointly. Well, now you're by yourself. So you lose that benefit of being married to a single person. You know, we talk about the planning process, right, Mark? You always hear that word. Come in, let me give you a retirement plan. There's no cost, no obligation, because you need to have the foresight to think about how we're going to move forward. And part of that plan is giving you an income plan. So today we have our wages. We have what we're going to have as Social Security, what our retirement accounts are, income. Where's it going to come from retirement? What bucket are we going to use and pull from in retirement to give us our need, want, and desire in retirement as income? Income's a big thing.
Yes, sir.
Our whole lives we've earned income. We've worked. Well, now you get to have income with not necessarily having to work in retirement, but we need to see where we're going to pull it from. In that plan, we're going to go over expenses with you. Terrible word, right? Expenses. I don't spend any money, people say, until we break it down. Then they realize how much we actually spend. And some of those expenses are going to go away in retirement, and some are going to be added in retirement. And we're going to plan for that. Then we're going to talk about the Social Security. It's a huge question for people. We just had a seminar a couple weeks ago, Mark, and it was sold out for the 2 nights, talking about Social Security, all the changes. I asked a couple, I said, are you confused about when to turn on Social Security? And they all raised their hands because no one knows how in the heck it works properly for them. Remember, this is your money that you've planned for, worked for, counted on for retirement. Now we need to know when to turn on to maximize the benefit. And obviously we go over taxes because that's a huge part of your retirement package. If you don't want to talk about taxes, if you don't plan to have taxes coming out in retirement, you are doing yourself a misjustice. And if you're working with someone that's not addressing that issue, they're not there to help you, folks. I hate to tell you this, because they're not looking at it, the total picture. They're looking at one aspect. I always say, you have a car. I can't ride a motorcycle because I think I look like a pimple with a white helmet on. But a car, you have 4 tires. All 4 of those tires need to be going the same direction to move proficiently. Income, expenses, taxes, Social Security. Let's put the spare with Medicare planning, long-term care planning. But you need to have it all going the same direction. So when we talk about going back to the original question about the survivor tax penalty, we lose the tax filing. Next is, Mark, there's 2 Social Securities, John and Sue. Well, John passed away. Does Sue get to keep both Social Securities?
She should.
No. She should in a perfect world, but we all know that we don't live in a perfect world. So we're going to lose one of them. Which one are we going to keep? Well, obviously, we're going to keep the higher one. So we're going to plan when to turn on Social Security accordingly to make sure we do that. How about if we have a spousal IRA benefit? Maybe we talk about Roth conversions at this time. This is a huge part of the process. And I think most people, and I shouldn't say most people, I know myself, my plan for retirement is to make sure when my time's sent to go home that Leslie's in the best place possible, my wife. So when we do this and we meet and look at the worst case scenarios, my job is to think about what's going to be like tomorrow when one of you is gone. What's going to happen? And we're going to plan to make sure that these consequences are minimized the best of our ability so that the surviving spouse gets to have the best possible life going forward. But you have to pick up the phone and you need to call. You need to call 302-330-2166. Schedule that appointment. Come in and sit down with me. Let's sit down and talk. Let's start a plan. Let's look at your opportunities. Let's see how we're going to go forward, because you have to plan to go forward. And Mark, you say, I know it's busy right now. We have Christmas coming up. We have Hanukkah. People are still trying to put their pants on from Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's, but we can't delay. Don't be the ostrich that always has his head in our sand thinking, I'll do it tomorrow.
302-330-2166. If you hear anything on this weekend show you need some clarity on, you're ready to get serious and stop saying, well, I'll get to it later. Let's get to it today. 302-330-2166. It's no cost. It's no obligation. It's a complimentary portfolio x-ray from George Politarhos and the team from the Portrayal Wealth Group. And George, you talk about a lot of the strategies that we're going to go over when customizing a plan, but we talk a lot about time. About how much time should we plan out for that initial consultation?
That initial consultation is going to be about an hour and 15 minutes. It's really a get to know me, get to know you scenario. We're going to gather some data from you and make copies of some forms you bring in, and to see where your goals, dreams, and desires are. After that first appointment, we're going to get back together about a week to 10 days roughly to go over the plan that we've put together. And that appointment's going to take about 2 hours, the second appointment. But that's a lot of follow-up and explaining where we're at and showing you what the options are and objectives are that we went over with you. Mm-hmm. But it's an hour for your first appointment, Mark. I think we can afford an hour, don't you?
I do. And it's worth noting as well, you're not obligated to become a client after that first initial meeting.
It's like I'm not the window salesman that, he comes to your house and he does all the measuring and slams his hand on things saying, this is the price. If you don't do it right now, the heck with you, you're not getting it. Mm-hmm. No. If you said, well, the first meeting, after our second meeting, let's do it right away.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably tell you, I want you to go home and think about it. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be comfortable. I know it makes sense, but I want you to know it makes sense. I have to think about everything I do. Mm-hmm. I do not do anything rashly. It's just not my nature. I don't want you to do something rash. I want you to take your time, plan it out, and make sure it fits your desires.
302-330-2166. Honesty and transparency from the team of the Portrayal Wealth Group. You're not required to become a client, but you will sit down. You will personally meet with George Politarhos to help customize that plan. Again, 302-330-2166, portrayalwealth.com. I'm glad you brought up annuities a couple of seconds ago. A great opportunity for some guaranteed income in retirement. And there's been a lot of conversation in 2023 about annuities because it has been the biggest year for annuity sales in history. Mm-hmm. So, George, according to the Insurance Retirement Institute, only 18% of financial advisors are using annuities in retirement planning. Why do you think that is?
You want my honest answer?
Yes, sir.
I think a lot of people, and there's different annuities. Let's be realistic here. There's variable annuities, fixed index annuities, immediate annuities, and deferred annuities. Taking variable annuities out of the picture, I don't use them because it's volatile and it's stock market risk. And annuities, in my opinion, we don't need the risk with annuities. It's safe money. The reason a lot of advisors are not taking advantage of this is because they can make more money by managing your funds and putting in variable annuities where they get residual income every month. And it doesn't matter how you do. Unfortunately, I've seen people in this industry worry more about themselves than their customers and clients and family members. And that's the true reason they're not taking advantage of it. I love the annuity business. It gives such a staple for our customers in their retirement. Think about this, Mark. I don't know when my last day in life is going to be. I don't know when I'm going to be called home to be with my family. But if I could live to be 100 and never worry about not having enough money coming in, right? I'd have that consistent income stream for the rest of my life. How could I lose?
Right.
That's what it's about. So we can use annuities to do so many different functions. I like the safety feature. How great is it to know that if the world goes to hell in a handbag, which right now, in my opinion, we're in hell with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I think we talked a couple weeks ago. Right now, we have a fixed index annuity with the fixed account in there that they give you a bonus of 14%. Think about that. You give me $100,000, easy math, you have $114,000 the next day. After 10 years, the rate of return average guaranteed 5.29 with no downside risk and accessibility to your funds. That's a pretty nice safety net, I would think. Don't you, Mark?
I agree.
And that's what we do. And that's just one example. We can also use annuities to have a consistent income stream starting in day one, where you'll get a set amount of money for the rest of you and your spouse's life. But once again, it has to fit into what your agenda is, what your needs are, and what your plan calls for. You have to be at ease, and let me show you the options available to help you be in the right place. But you need to take the first step. You need to pick up the phone and call 302-330-2166 or go to Patria, Patria, wealth.com, and to see what we are, where we're located, and come into the office and let's start the process. It's no cost, no obligation. You come in, we talk, we get you a plan back into 10 days, a week, and you have a visualization. Instead of thinking maybe, kinda, shoulda, you now know in black and white. Because we take the gray out of your retirement, folks, and make it black and white. So you understand what it is, when you're going to retire, how much is it going to cost you to retire, and even more importantly, can you afford to retire and do everything you want to? But it's up to you to start the process.
Investment advisory services are offered only through properly registered representatives of Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, which is not affiliated with Betrayal Wealth Group. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if George Politarhos is licensed in your state, please contact his office. George A. Politarhos is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through George A. Politarhos, NPN number 175000473.